And yet another frothy day on the market. I am looking right now at the market with an hour to close. The Dow is up 290 points. The NASDAQ is up 230 points. That's 0.61 and 0.97% respectively. I'll have thoughts on the market for you a little bit later after the market's closed. I made some moves today because it's so frothy. But I don't give investment advice. At the same time, I'm always transparent with the audience about what I'm up to. Let me tell you, though, the 10-year Treasury, this is the best news for home buyers, has dropped to 3.981%. Now, that's not the interest rate you get when you buy a house, but it's the interest rate on which your home mortgage, 30-year, 15, 20, whatever you get, it's all based off the 10-year Treasury. So if it's down to 3.981, that means you might be able to get a mortgage in the fives for the first time in about 5 years because Donald Trump has beat inflation. It's calmed down. It's at 3%, probably going to go down. We're going to get 2 interest rate cuts for sure after the inflation numbers and the job numbers. And Donald Trump's having a great trip in Malaysia, other places. He's in Japan today. In fact, let me go over, I'll come back and tell you about andrewandtodd.com after I play for you President Trump in Japan, cut number 10 on his visit to our closest ally in Asia.
And we had a phenomenal day here in Japan with a momentous trade deal. We made a big, beautiful trade deal for both countries. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, I think Japan also had their best stock market day ever. So your new prime minister is doing very well. First female, first woman prime minister. And I said, you already hit the highest stock price you've ever hit. So she's very happy. And we spent the whole day together. It was beautiful. And she's great. We went out to the USS George Washington, the SS George Washington. It was really great. The sailors and a lot of others. We had a lot of people, a lot of military people were there. But boy, that was some scene. It was incredible. You wouldn't believe that a ship could hold that many people. But I just want to say that she is a delight, and she's going to be. I think she's going to be a great prime minister. I really do. I got to know her pretty well in a short period of time. She was a very good friend and ally of Shinzo Abe, who is a friend of mine, one of my best friends in terms of this world, the world of nations. And he was a great man, and he got, unfortunately, what happened to him was sad, very sad. But he was a great leader, and we miss him very much.
Former Prime Minister Abe was assassinated in Japan last year, and that's what President Trump is referring to. He went on cut number 11, President Trump in Japan.
But tonight I'm more confident than ever that the friendship between the United States and Japan is strong as it can be, and it's thriving, it's prosperous, and it'll soon be, I think, greater than ever before. And we had 4 great years. You know, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. But we're blowing it away this time, to be honest with you. We're blowing it. We had 4 great years. As you know, we had the 1-year deduction. I call it the 1-year little deduction.
We're going to continue following President Trump.
And then cut number 12.
Easy day. I think we've gone to about 9 stops. You think Biden could have done this? I don't think so. You think so? I've been walking back and forth. Sir, we're going over here. It's just a quarter of a mile. Walking would be fine, sir. Oh, thanks a lot, you know. But we had a lot of stops today from early in the morning until now. But this is one that I was thrilled because I see the list of people. This is really a who's who, this list. I was reading it. I don't get that impressed with things. I'd say, wow, that's really pretty amazing. But I'm thrilled that so many Japanese investors recognize that people from all over the planet are now discovering that the United States is hot. And it's also a place where you can really do.
Our markets are hot, and Trump has brought back growth, and it's phenomenal growth, and that's great. I have my reservations about the stock market right now, which I'll tell you in a second, but I am very glad for people who want to buy a home. andrewandtodd.com, great sponsor of my program for more than a decade, 888-888-1172 with Union Home Mortgage. 888-888-1172 connects you with andrewandtodd.com if you want to do a mortgage. I got a testimonial today from a customer in Georgia. They're listening on Atlanta. They do mortgages everywhere. Nothing. They said they ask, is there anything that could be improved? Nothing. Andrew and Kristen, who's part of the staff down there, are amazing people, first and foremost, and excellent lenders on top of that. They truly care about your transaction and will go above and beyond no matter what hurdle presents itself. I can't recommend them enough. Craig, I won't use Craig's last name, but that's true. Todd Avakian, Andrew Del Rey, they're the best in the business. And right now, finally, with the 10-year Treasury back below 4%, if you've been sitting on the sidelines, now is the time to call them at 888-888-1172 or go to their website and say, okay, I'm going to get into I've been waiting to buy a home, waiting to move up, waiting to sell my home. If interest rates drop, I expect to be called when I can refinance and save money. But, you know, we're not sure that it'll last. You're never sure with mortgages. But that 10-year Treasury, we've been waiting for it to get below 4% for a long time. I think that is a fabulous sign of all being well in the economic marketplace, especially in home building and in home buying. Home building drives the United States economy now. For every job on a home site, there are 4 jobs downstream. It's replaced American Car Company. And for a while, it's just been in the dumper because real estate's been in the dumper because interest rates are so high because of Bidenomics. And Donald Trump has tapped that down, and Scott Bessent has said we're not going to reopen the government and spend $1.5 trillion to buy Democrats to do that. Harry Enton, by the way, on CNN yesterday talked about who's getting hurt by the shutdown. It's Democrats, but I hope they get hurt in Virginia and New Jersey. Virginians are suffering a lot from the shutdown because a lot of federal workers there. They should vote for Winsome Earl Sears, not for the automaton, Abigail Spanberger, whose party is responsible for this shutdown. Here's Harry Enton on CNN, cut number 7.
It hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at is, well, hey, why should we give, and electorally speaking, when our brand has actually improved a little bit?
Now, that's not really, they're not giving up because it's helpful for them politically. Chuck Schumer thought the shutdown would be helpful for him politically, but hapless Chuck Schumer is always wrong. He's always wrong. It's a disaster for Democrats, and I think they're going to pay a price a week from today in New Jersey with Jack Ciattarelli winning. I'm hoping Jack Ciattarelli is going to win. I don't know if enough New Yorkers will come to their senses to vote for Andrew Cuomo. Republican, Democrat, Independent, you cannot give your city to Zohran Mamdani. That is madness. He doesn't know how to run anything. New York City employs 300,000 people. Mamdani has run a state legislative office for 6 years with 10 people in it. That's it. You are out of your mind if you assign the mayorship of Gotham to an anti-Semitic Marxist. You don't think how bad it could be. You just, it's just another Democrat like Bill de Blasio. No, it's a nightmare. It's going to be I wrote about it for Fox News today. Go over to Fox News or Google Hugh Hewitt and Fox News. You'll get that column. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It occurred to me yesterday. I did at the end of the show. A big plug for our sponsor, BestHotGrill.com. And I now want to make sure I do it in the first hour and the second hour because, the audience changes over. Primarily, people at home watching on Salem News Channel doesn't change over. They leave it there. But people in their cars are switching around, and I want to make sure that everyone hears what I said about BestHotGrill.com yesterday. They're friends of mine. Rhett and Irene have been friends of mine forever. The holidays are upon us, and your best clients and customers usually love a good gift. Don't send them a fruitcake. Don't send them, flowers a month. My wife likes that, but I don't. Don't send them Fruit of the Month Club. Send them the hibachi. All right, if you're serious about your clients at the end of the year, go over to BestHotGrill.com and find the gift of value, the Best Hot Grill, the hibachi. Now, you're not going to give them the big, grand old thing. You'll buy that for yourself, and you can try it before you buy it. But to find the very best holiday gift for your very best clients, head to BestHotGrill.com and just think about it. They will think of you. They'll be at their tailgate with their little hibachi from BestHotGrill.com, and they'll say, oh, yeah, I got this from X, Y, and Z. They're my lawyers. They're my accountants. They're my financial advisor. And boy, do they like me. They gave me this. It's the greatest gift in the world, besttalkgrill.com. Coming right back, America. Israel is ramping up its blowback in Gaza. I'll tell you about that. During the break, remember as well, over at HughHewitt.com, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. There's a banner at the top of HughHewitt.com. As they come out of the longest war and they're about to go back into it, don't forget the IFCJ banner at HughHewitt.com. Joined by Michael Duncan, one of the Fab Four fellas on the Ruthless podcast. Hello, Michael. Thank you for joining me. Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Hugh. Thanks for having me.
I am a little bit amazed. You guys are so cynical. I listened this morning, and you're not buying Gavin Newsom's Hoop Dreams backstory. I was totally sold on that. You're going to have to tell I didn't hear the whole podcast, but the part I heard that you replayed, I really believed it.
Well, it's sort of tough. And, you know, our whole background of our careers is working on political campaigns. So we're a little bit cynical about these things, right? When a politician tries to reinvent themselves. Gavin Newsom has taken it to another level, Hugh. He is now going on podcasts talking about his growing up with his Wonder Bread and shooting the basketball in the backyard. And this is
500 times a night.
Oh,
500
my
times.
gosh, Hugh, it's incredible revisionist history from Gavin Newsom's upbringing. This is a guy who palled around with the Getty family, right? Like this is a billionaire family. This is a guy wearing his Burberry scarf and his stylish blazer as the most stylish man in his high school. It's just a farce, a complete farce.
Well, I thought it was very cynical to dismiss the governor's absolute determination to make hoop. You're too young probably to remember the docu-movie Hoop Dream. Did you ever see it?
No, I've seen Hoop Dreams. And also
Okay,
Blue Chips. Blue Chips is a great movie, too.
Another great movie. But I felt bad for the governor this morning. Michael Duncan, you are a political consultant your whole life. So I wanted to run down next Tuesday's slate of races with you, starting with Comrade Mamdani. I hold out a prayer that New York will have a conversion to common sense, both Republican, Democrat, and Independent, and they all will realize you cannot turn over the city of Gotham to a guy who has run a state legislative office with 10 people in it for 6 years. That's not a qualification, right?
No, of course it's not. You know, I don't hold out a ton of hope, cynic as I am. You know, I really blame the system up there in New York for this being our options. You know, that, you know, somehow Republicans or independent-minded voters in New York might have to choose Cuomo, the guy who put grandmas in nursing facilities during the COVID pandemic. I mean, I think it's sort of an indictment on the independence of New York politics that there wasn't some brave, courageous person who stepped up and said, hey, you know what? None of this works for me, and I'm willing to put my name on a ballot and run. And it's just sort of sad. It's sad that this is what's happened to one of the greatest cities in America. Unfortunately, I think Mamdani is going to win this election. I do, like you, Hugh, I hold out a prayer that somehow that doesn't happen, but it seems like it might.
Yeah, well, it would require Republicans who are listening right now in New York to actually vote for Andrew Cuomo, which it would be like the Fonz saying I was wrong. They're going to have to reach for the lever and actually vote for a Democrat. Curtis got about 300,000 votes 4 years ago when Eric Adams got more than 700,000. So those 300,000 people aren't stupid. They have an ideology. I think it could get very bad in New York, like Escape from New York bad. How bad do you have to go up there for Fox, don't you?
I do. I do think it'll get bad. You know, but like it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, right, Hugh? I mean, like he has been very clear about what he supports. And it was a shock to me that he won that primary. It's a shock to me that there hasn't been more people opposing his candidacy in the Democratic establishment, because I think it's antithetical to so much of what we believe as Americans. But they're allowing it to happen, right? Like this is unfortunately, Hugh, I think this is the future of the Democratic Party.
Well, I think they are done. I wrote a column that'll come out tomorrow. They're going the way of the Whigs. But Michael, I just have one piece of advice. You got to go from Penn Station up to the Fox building. It's about 20 blocks, and it's actually only about 12 blocks. Just wear sneakers, travel light, don't carry any valuables. You're going to run and run back. You'll be fine. Let me go to the good news story. New Jersey, I got a good feeling about Chitterelli. What do you think?
I do too. I think he's running a really good campaign. I think Cheryl doesn't have much to stand on as by way of accomplishments. And I think that this is sort of a changing of the guard in the Republican electorate in the age of Donald Trump. He's done better in places like New Jersey than he previously did in 2016 as these coalitions have evolved, right? I mean, it's an uphill battle, right, Hugh? Because we're talking about a party in power in Washington, D.C. in a off-year election. That is always an uphill battle, but I really like his odds.
I like him because I don't know if he's done a ride-along with the Ruthless Brothers, but he's got great communication chops. He's been on this show, and I was blown away. I didn't have him on 4 years ago when he almost won, but I wanted everyone in New Jersey markets, both north and south, to hear him if they're listening to me, because he's got great communication chops. I mean, like national stuff. And did you ever run any races in the Garden State?
No, I didn't, but I know firsthand from having talked to a lot of people up there that the issues that are animating the electorate in this election are good ones for him, right? Like it's energy costs, it's property taxes, it's things like this that I think a candidate like that can win on, 100%.
Okay, now let's go to the Commonwealth. I am a Commonwealth voter. I've already voted for Winsome Earl Sears. I've already voted for Jason Miyares. And I know you had the great Governor Youngkin, in for a ride-along this morning. And he's fabulous as well. Isn't he amazing? He's a very, very charismatic guy.
He is, and not just charismatic. This is a guy with a shoulder to the wheel. Like, he has nothing to gain from this, right? Like, it's a term limited position when you're governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You get one term. And he's running through the tape, right? And, like, he is supporting Winsome Sears, Miyares, like, the whole ticket. And I just think that's a really admirable thing from a politician, where there's a lot of people who'd step back from that and be like, hey, I accomplished what I accomplished. We'll see what happens, you know? And he's not doing that. He's doing the courageous thing, and he's stepping into the breach to say, we have to win.
Now, I think Miyares will win because Jay Jones is nuts. Their attorney general nominee is the one who fantasizes about putting a double tap in the Republican speaker's head. He's a nut. And so Virginians, don't vote for Jay Jones. Vote for, you got a great attorney general in Miyares, just keep him there. But what do you think about Sears and Spanberger? Spanberger is an automaton. She was beamed aboard from the Starship Enterprise. She doesn't even have Spock's charisma. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, Hugh. She is running a prevent defense here at the end of this campaign. I think she knows it hurts, right? The Jay Jones stuff hurts. The pedophile who went into public locker rooms in swimming facilities in Arlington, Virginia, this Richard Cox guy who's now on trial.
Yep.
A lot of this stuff is just horrible for her. And in that debate, she just refused to answer any of those questions. She just wants to do a prevent defense and figure out how to win. I don't know. It feels like all the momentum is on the side of the Republicans right now. God willing, Winsome Sears figures out a way to close this gap in the final.
I hope you are right, and everyone should go and listen to today's Ruthless podcast. Hear the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, run down the reasons why Virginia doesn't want to go backwards and wants to go forwards with Winsome Sears, Jason Miyares. Michael Duncan, get those track shoes. Don't wear any watches. You're going to have to run. Thank you, my friend. The Ruthless Podcast, 3 days a week.
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Frankly, this is our only moment of leverage. And although a very unpleasant tool to use,
I'm very glad that Chris Coons is honest. I've always told everyone, if Chris Coons ran for president, he'd be the least objectionable Democrat. Serious man, very good man, right on China, understands we've got to get Jimmy Lai out of there. I hope President Trump raises Jimmy Lai when he's in China, when he's talking with Chinese General Secretary Xi Jinping on Thursday. So Chris Coons is a smart guy, and he did not say, like a lot of Democrats are saying, it's up to the Republicans. He's saying, we don't have any leverage, so this is our moment of leverage. I'm still astonished that they would say that. And John Thune stepped up to the floor today, leader of the Republicans, majority leader of the Senate, cut number one.
That thing sitting at the desk that funds the government doesn't have a single new Republican policy in it. It doesn't have a single partisan policy writer. It simply extends current government funding. But Democrats have said no to that now 12 times. We offered them a chance to continue the bipartisan appropriations process, starting with the defense appropriations bill, a bill that passed out of the committee by a big bipartisan vote of 26-3. But Democrats said no to that too. They didn't want to lose leverage in the shutdown. Then last week, we offered up a bill to pay any federal employee who was working during the shutdown, including everybody here. And once again, Democrats said no. Now, Mr. President, I don't know what Democrats are holding out for. Do Democrats think that we're suddenly going to vote for their partisan CR, which, by the way, would spend an additional $1.5 trillion to keep the government open until the end of this week? That's their alternative. $1.5 trillion to keep the government open until Friday. That's their alternative. It wouldn't pass here. It can't pass in the House, and it wouldn't be signed into law by the President. Our bill, on the other hand, as I said, has passed the House a month ago, has been sitting here for an entire month, and will be signed by the President immediately to reopen.
So Senator Thune is right. It got Chuck Schumer upset because he knows he's right, so he stood up and started to rant, cut number 2.
Today, Leader Thune will force yet another vote on a Republican CR that has zero bipartisan input. It's a partisan bill and does nothing, most importantly, does nothing to solve the ACA crisis. Just now here on the floor, the Republican leader seemed perplexed about what precisely it is that Democrats are pushing for. He knows damn well what Democrats want. It's the very same thing that a vast majority
So I
of
played him
Americans
back to
want.
back because you heard Senator Thune say exactly what Democrats demanded, $1.5 trillion. No one can afford to do that. No one's going to do that. It was an ask that could not be answered with anything, and it's a clean CR. It's never a clean CR by definition doesn't ask for anything. We're not going to do that. Obamacare is going to revert to its original form. We're not going to make permanent the subsidies during the Biden years. It's got to skinny down. The government's got to skinny down, just like Dwayne did on myphdweightloss.com, 864-644-1900. That's
864-644-1900. I was wondering where
pretty
you were going with
smooth
this.
transition, wasn't it?
A nice segue. I had no idea where you were going with this.
Yeah, they need to skinny down their demands the way that you skinnied down. By the way, did you see the former Angel Ohtani got on base 9 times last night?
I did not watch a pitch of it.
18 innings.
You can't make me watch a pitch.
He's an angel. He was an angel.
He was an angel. He
was an angel before you lost all that weight. You think it's connected?
It might
You think
be.
he liked Big Dwayne?
It might be. I think I don't know if I stress ate, but I did what I stressed boycotted eating after he
Can you imagine being stuck at that game?
No.
That would, you would never lose weight. Is there anything in a ballpark that you can eat from myphdweightloss.com?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And so 18 innings, 7 hours? Then you got to get out of the parking lot at Chavez Ravine. I've been back since 1978.
Which is another 7 hours.
Yeah, I've been there twice. I was there for Reggie Jackson's home run in 1978 when they won the series, and I went back once with my son-in-law for his bachelor party because he's a Phillies fan. And I'm never going there again because you can't get out of there.
You know what? And you know what that part of LA's like at night. Now imagine late at night. That's not where you want to be.
That's too late even for the gangbangers. Now 864-644-1900. If you want to lose weight, you want to skinny down, Chuck Schumer, call My PhD Weight Loss. Dwayne lost 50 pounds, kept most of it off, and is back on it for the holidays, which makes sense. 864-644-1900 to go to myphdweightloss.com. David M. Drucker with The Dispatch joins me. We're a senior political writer. Hello, David, on the mean streets of the Beltway, eh?
Yeah, across the street from the White House. Coincidentally, my son has an orthodontist appointment, and it's kitty corner to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Orthodontia means you've got to keep working, David. Let me play for you and our audience a Jon Stewart with Zoran Mamdani last night, cut number 13.
I wish you all the best. Honestly, you know, I think any New Yorker who looks at someone getting an opportunity, who's representing communities that have not been as representative, a Muslim, a young person, a progressive, a democratic socialist, you know, there are so many different communities that are looking to you, and this, I hate to put it on you, as a bit of a Jackie Robinson moment. And I know that...
All right, that is the wildest... Jackie Robinson, Republican, first African-American to play in the big leagues, endured incredible hatred. What do you think about that, David Drucker?
Well, it's certainly a different way of looking at it. I mean, look, Mamdani's the favorite here, right? So he's pretty much received nothing but love from a majority of New York voters, even though there's a lot of resistance to his candidacy. And who knows, maybe if this was one-on-one with a better set of opponents, he'd lose. But he looks like he's in the driver's seat, and he hasn't really dealt with... I mean, look, the comparison, it's always dangerous when you make comparisons like that historically, because I think it misses the observation of what these historical figures went through. I think the bigger question here is it fair as a matter of politics to compare Zoran Mamdani to Jackie Robinson, who was such an important and beloved American figure, whether we're talking politics or not? And he hasn't done anything yet to prove that. And in fact, he has said a lot of things that make a good number of New Yorkers, even though they're in the minority, very suspicious and concerned about his candidacy.
Exactly right. And it tells us nothing about Mamdani. It tells us a lot about Jon Stewart and historical illiteracy on his part. Now I want to play for you two Mamdani quotes from this week. First, cut number 16 from October 24th of this week, discussing his aunt on 9/11, cut 16.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Okay, that was 2 days ago. Cut number 17, Zoran Mamdani, having been fact-checked about that, says this, cut number 17, on the 27th.
So recently, in a recent address about Islamophobia, you referenced your aunt and some of the harassment she was facing post 9/11. Is that a blood relative?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was speaking about my aunt. I was speaking about Zehra Fouhi, my father's cousin, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And for the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia in this race and in this city to be the question of my aunt tells you everything about Andrew Cuomo and his inability to reckon with a crisis of his own.
Okay, so it wasn't his aunt, David Drucker. It was his father's cousin, and she was living in Tanzania at the time. She wasn't in New York. Does it matter?
Well, it doesn't matter to voters. And what I've noticed about voters, right and left, over the past decade plus, is that when you have a young, or let's say not young, but fresh candidate who is speaking to their concerns, they just don't care about whether the candidate misspeaks or tells the truth. They care that their concerns are being heard and legitimized, and that there is somebody new. And whenever you fact check like this, what you hear from voters is that you're just trying to tear down somebody new so you can keep somebody old, and you're not hearing us, and we don't care whether this guy fibs or this lady fibs now and then, because they really understand who we are and what we're about.
Okay, what about if the lady freezes, as in the case of Abigail Spanberger in the debate stage? And by the way, doesn't the shutdown hurt her? Because Harry Enton last night put numbers up. The Republicans in Congress have seen their approval rating go up 5 points since the shutdown. Democrats are spiraling. He didn't say that. I'm just assuming that because they own it. And Northern Virginians have a lot of government workers who haven't been paid in a month.
Yeah. So look, this is going to be an interesting thing to see. I would say that if voters in Northern Virginia hadn't been impacted by the Department of Government Efficiency effort undertaken by the White House right after Trump was inaugurated, this might be more of a clear-cut case of one side's responsible for me losing money and the other side isn't. But in this case, it could be a loss.
I do believe there was a Doge effect, but it was a very small number of federal employees relative to the size of the federal government. They're not going to vote for Winsome Earl Sears if Doge laid him off. But what about the person who hadn't gotten paid in a month? And everybody knows it's the Democrats, right, David?
Well, I think that I've always said Republicans are on the better side of the shutdown because they didn't instigate it.
Right.
But in a blue state like Virginia, where federal workers feel under threat, even if they still have their jobs, and it's been very clear to them who's responsible from their point of view, then this isn't a case of everything was fine until the Democrats shut the government down. Does that mean I'm saying this isn't going to impact Spanberger adversely? No. I'm just saying it's not a clear-cut prediction that I'm able to make.
I have no feeling except that Winsome Earl Sears has momentum, and Jason Miyares is going to walk away with it because Jay Jones is nuts. Last one, we got a minute, David. New Jersey. What do you think, hear, feel, sense?
I mean, if you force me to bet, I'd figure that Mickey Sherrill probably wins narrowly. On the other hand, it's been 40 years since the Democratic Party held the governor's mansion in Trenton for 3 straight elections. And New Jersey has typically been rather blue. It's a little bit less blue in recent years, but still pretty blue. I think they'd be in a better position with a better candidate. But this is the one I'm actually watching more so than the Virginia governor's race, which I just think Spanberger is going to win one way or the other, even though Miyares is now likely to win as Attorney General.
David M. Drucker on X. New Yorkers vote in a week. Do they really want an anti-Semitic Marxist, Zoran Mamdani, as their mayor? Never run anything more than an office of 10 people for 6 years. 300,000 people work for the city of New York. Who is he? What's he believe? Here's Zoran 2 years ago. Cut number 14 at a roundtable.
The importance for me of international solidarity is that it takes me out of the American political landscape that reminds me just how tame some of the things are that I'm actually calling for. And it reminds me of the necessity of grounding ourselves in the struggles as opposed to the fights around the struggles. For anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyper-local. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF.
Got that? When the boot of the New York Police Department is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. That's the Israeli Defense Forces. He is the most anti-Semitic candidate for a major office in America's history. I cannot believe New York is going to vote for a rookie who doesn't know how to run anything with more than 10 people in it and who's an extremist nut. Don't do it, New York. Vote for Cuomo. You may not like him, but he knows at least a little bit about running a city, and he's not an anti-Semitic Marxist. Let me take my relief factor. I'm getting worked up thinking about Mamdani. He's such a whack job, and New York is going to go over the cliff. I've got my relief factor. I have to walk off the stress if he wins every day. I carry Nick Kurkumin as Veritron Omega. I'll take it. And get ready to run when I'm in New York. Always run. Don't walk in New York. The criminals will catch up with you if you walk. You'll have to run all the time. Relief Factor makes every minor ache and pain better. Some go away almost overnight. Some take 3 weeks. Try it for the 3-week starter pack, $19.95. Call 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF, or visit their website, find that starter pack, and then begin to take it. You take 3 packets a day for the first week, 2 packets a day the second week, then you're on the 1 packet a day, and you'll love me for it. Go find that starter pack at their website, relieffactor.com. Also want to remind you that you are living in an era of great threat to your devices, which is why we need WebRoot Total Protection. WebRoot.com/Hewitt. The scariest part of October isn't Halloween. It's being unprotected in an age of hacking. Some of you won't go out after dark because you're afraid of getting mugged, but you don't have any kind of security on your devices, which can get mugged all the time. Cyber Scaries Month is what they call it at Webroot. You need Webroot Total Protection, all-in-one product for individuals, 1 identity, 5 devices, families, 10 identity, 10 devices, antivirus protection, identity theft protection, dark web monitoring, secure VPN, and right now, you also get 24/7 US-based protection. Right now, you get 60% off of Webroot Total Protection at www.webroot.com/Hewitt. That's 60% off for a limited time, but only when you go to www.webroot.com/Hewitt. Celebrate Cyber Scaries Month. Put Halloween aside and get protected on your devices at webroot.com/Hewitt. 60% off this month only. Sometimes it's better for an author to be lucky than smart. Now, Brett Baer's new book about Teddy Roosevelt, To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower, is very, very smart. I enjoyed it immensely. I did a long interview with Brett about it last week. But today, President Trump is in Japan with the Prime Minister of Japan on the deck of the George Washington, our great aircraft carrier. Brett Baer, I know you didn't know that was going to happen during your book launch, but could you ask for a better backdrop than that?
No, it's great. Hugh, thanks for having me on. I think it's, it really is about forward-leaning around the world and a leader trying to solve things. Teddy Roosevelt tried to do it. In fact, did it with Japan in the negotiation with Russia and Japan. It is a great backdrop, and there's a lot that is synergy here, even though I wrote this before any of this transpired. So it seems to happen every history book we do.
And to launch the Great White Fleet, like TR did, and then to have Donald Trump standing on the George Washington in Japan. Did the Great White Fleet go to Japan? I can't remember the end of the book where you described the travels of the Great White Fleet. It took 14 months,
it went
I remember that.
all around the world. It did a full circumference, and it came back 10 days before the end of Roosevelt's term. But, it went to the Far East as well.
Well, I hope your publicists are getting to manage some kind of rollout with that backdrop of the president with the prime minister on the GW. Second point, Brett, I've never actually been to a bipartisan event in Washington, D.C. I've been to embassy parties, but those aren't really political events. There are lots of people there. Your book party was actually a bipartisan event. I was blown away. Did you know that going in?
I knew that the people said yes, that there was a great mix of Republicans and Democrats, and administration folks and Capitol Hill, and I was very blessed to have a great turnout for that party. And, listen, I think that that's indicative of, if you really work at it, and the Common Ground segment that I do on the show, I've established relationships with a bunch of people on Capitol Hill on both sides, and it was great to see them come out.
It was great to see Amy Klobuchar and John Fetterman in the room with Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum, Secretary of Energy Chris Wright. I don't do a lot of these because they're usually just Republicans talking to Republicans, and I don't go to the Democrat ones. So well done. So that's our bipartisan moment for the day. Let's get to brass knuckle politics. The shutdown, at least if we believe Harry Enton over at CNN, is helping the Republicans and hurting the Democrats. Is that your sense of the situation?
I do feel like the sands are shifting, Hugh, and that, the unions speaking out, within the Democratic base. I think that there's really a sense that SNAP benefits and, the efforts now on the 13th time to pass a continuing resolution in the Senate as far as this vote, and then voting on just specifically the payment for the military and the government workers, I do think it's hurting, just the storyline. And I bet that when the president gets back from overseas, he may get everybody in a room and start knocking heads.
Well, I don't know that the Democrats can wait that long. I want to play for you a clip of Congresswoman Jayapal over on MSNBC. It's a funny thing, but it's not funny. Cut number 9, please.
What do you say to those constituents who are worried about feeding their families?
Well, this is the most cruel thing that the Republicans have done since the shutdown started. 42 million people are on SNAP. That is basic food assistance. It is the most effective anti-hunger program that we have ever had.
She's right, Brett Baer. 32 million people are on SNAP, but she's wrong about the cruelest thing Republicans have ever done. Republicans voted to keep SNAP open. Do people buy her that kind of rhetoric? Do you think that actually works?
I don't, Hugh. I don't think that works. I mean, it's pretty simple to say, here's what we're doing. We are funding the government at Biden-level funding. We're funding it, and going forward, we're going to negotiate everything. I just don't think you can do the rhetorical jujitsu like that and have people buy it. I don't know. I don't think so.
And last question, do you expect it to have impact in New Jersey and Virginia? I'm not sure it has much impact in New York City, as that's very much a Gotham election. But what about Virginia and Jersey?
Yeah, maybe Virginia, because obviously Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, there's a lot of government workers. But how does it play? I'm not sure. I mean, I think Abigail Spanberger has the fundraising, has the advantage, would be seen as the go-to going in. But Winston Earl Sears, she's run a good race, and I think it's single digits. I think New Jersey could be the upset that Republicans are thinking it might be. If you think about Jack Ciattarelli, when he ran in 21, he was down 20 points heading into Election Day. It ended up being 3 points, the difference. Now he's down 3, 4, 5 points heading into Election Day, and he's closing strong in a state that Trump lost by just 6 points in 24. So I think New Jersey looks more Republican-ish than Virginia, but we'll see.
And if they lose even one of the 4 races, and I include the attorney generalship in Virginia, but the 2 governorships, and if Democrats lose one of those 4 in this year, do they walk away feeling a little bit stunned?
I think that they shake themselves, because I think they thought that this was going to be a blowout,
layup.
At least on the governors, a layup. And so is it a canary in the coal mine? I don't know. But I think it does show that Democrats splitting apart, maybe the Mamdani race, maybe the energy being on the far left of the party is a problem politically.
I agree. Brett Baer, always good to talk to you. Thank you. Watch him tonight on Special Report. See if they don't have a producer throw together some TR Donald Trump comparison, because, boy, that's a gift to the author that we'll keep giving. Brett Baer, thank you as always. Want to remind everyone, as things heat up in Israel, and I'll give you the 2 headlines. Wave of Israeli strikes reported in Gaza City. Palestinian media reports a wave of Israeli airstrikes in Gaza City a short while ago. This happened about 5 hours ago. There is no immediate comment from the IDF. But then Defense Minister Katz said Hamas will pay many times over for attacking troops, foot-dragging on returning hostages. Defense Minister Israel Katz says Hamas will pay a heavy price for attacking IDF soldiers earlier today in southern Gaza's Rafah, and for the terror group's violations of the deal under which it was supposed to return the bodies of the remaining dead hostages held in the Strip. Quote, the attack on IDF soldiers in Gaza today by the Hamas terrorist organization crosses a glaring red line to which the IDF will respond with great force, Katz said in a statement. Hamas will pay many times over for attacking soldiers and for violating the agreement to return fallen hostages. The most macabre thing, Hamas is really depraved. The most depraved thing they have done since 10/7 was to announce that they were returning the remains of one of the 13 hostages who are dead, that they have still the bodies of, and they didn't. They staged an excavation for body parts of a previously returned Israeli hostage, so that the parents of said hostage had to bury him for the 3rd time today. And they did that last night. It's a depraved group. You cannot deal with them. Israel has vociferously rejected the idea of Turkey and Qatar being in Gaza. I think the war is going to resume very soon, but it's not going to resume with the reservists. It's going to resume with the IDF ordinary forces. They've taken a 2-week breather. and they're going to take more territory and close the noose even tighter because Hamas doesn't have command and control over its troops, or they're ordering the troops to their Hamas terrorists to attack the IDF, and Israel isn't going to stand by and Donald Trump isn't going to make them. As I say that, I want to remind everyone this is the last week we are raising money with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. The IFCJ has got a banner at the top of HughHewitt.com. They're throwing all in to help Israel recover from 2 long years of war. Thousands of wounded Israeli vets, lots of Israelis who've lost everything or had their businesses turned upside down. The banner is at the top of IFCJ at the HughHewitt.com. It's blue banner. You cannot miss it. Every one of your donations goes to IFCJ, their work inside of Israel. Tax deductible, very reliable. Please join in helping IFCJ in the sponsored campaign to bring a lot more relief to Israel. Let me also remind you I'm in the ReliefFactor.com studio, and every day in hour 1, 2, and 3, I remind you, I took it in hour 1, I remind you in hour 2 and in hour 3 that Relief Factor really works, but you got to get it to make it work for you. Call 1-800, the number 4 in the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF, or get their starter pack for $19.95, less than $1 a day, or go find the starter pack at their website at ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. You will thank me. The minor aches and pains will fly away when you start taking Relief Factor, which you can get at ReliefFactor.com. Ro Khanna is an occasional guest here on the program, is a Democrat who represents Silicon Valley. He went on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo today, and Ro's pretty smart, and he doesn't lie, but he does have a very good retreat. At least Democrats are going to think it's a very good retreat. Cut number 4.
But Congressman, isn't it true that you have already voted for a clean CR under the Biden administration? This is the same CR?
It is in terms of a clean CR, but that was conditional at this point on the tax credits being extended. We can't have a situation where we have tax breaks for the bill.
That was an admission against interest, Congressman Khanna. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, followed up at the presser today about talking points like that one. Cut number 5.
And simply put, it's the profound fear in the Democratic Party that drives this shutdown. It is not principle. It is not policy. It is certainly not concern for the constituents that they say that they want to represent. We know that because even their own constituents now are begging Democrats to stop the political games and reopen the government.
Among those constituents, the Air Traffic Controllers Association, here is their president, Nick Daniels, at a press conference, cut number 6.
Day in and day out, that's now the life of an air traffic controller. The people tasked with making the impossible possible are having it made impossible by not paying them again. So the message is simple. In the shutdown today, there is no excuse that these hardworking men and women are showing up to do this job and to not ever know when they're going to get paid again. So we need America's help. We need you to stand up, and we need you to say, enough is enough in this shutdown and ensure that we can move this forward, because we do not want to be up here telling you the sad stories. We want to be up here telling you how we're moving this system forward, how we're bringing in more air traffic controllers than ever, how we're modernizing this system to, serve the American people. So, again, cannot stress enough. If you want to take action, contact your congressional representative and tell them in the shutdown today.
And the Schumer shutdown. He almost said it. It's the Schumer shutdown ended. Kevin Frey is a reporter at MS Now with anchor Chris Jansing today. Cut number 8.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very dramatic call from that union of federal employees representing hundreds of thousands with a statement today saying, among other things, that it's time for our leaders to start focusing on how to solve problems for the American people rather than on who is going to get the blame for a shutdown that Americans dislike. Because when the folks who serve this country are standing in line for food banks after missing a second paycheck because of this shutdown, they aren't looking for partisan spin. They're looking for wages that they earned. They go on to essentially say that Congress needs to pass, in their view, a clean CR. Now, when Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about this today, he certainly kind of leaned into this. In fact, we saw several top Republicans on the House side take advantage of this statement and basically point to it saying, Democrats, the ball is in your court now, whether or not you decide to act on this. Johnson saying, I certainly hope this is a turning point in the shutdown, noting that this is a union, after all, that is weighing in this sort of way and saying that this shutdown is a charade. Now, of course, at the same time, I have in recent weeks spoken to Democrats representing districts with heavy populations of federal employees, and their message that they say they've been receiving from federal workers was keep up the fight, that health care is the fight worth having, that it is an important time to push back on the Trump administration.
All right, stop right there, because he lapsed into Democratic talking about. There isn't one federal worker who is worried about health care subsidies because they're in the federal employee health benefits program, heavily subsidized. The best employee health plan in America is the FEHB. I know I administered it for 2.5 years when I was at OPM as general counsel and deputy director, and they're in one federal employee without their health insurance. So they're not making that argument. The American Federation of Government Employees, again, I know this because I ran OPM, and not only as general counsel and deputy director, but acting director as well. AFGE is all Democrats all the time, 24/7, 365. They're calling on Democrats to reopen the government. When you've lost the AFGE, Chuck Schumer, you've lost your base, public employee unions. You've got to let your members reopen, but I'm going to guess it's going to take Jack Ciattarelli winning in New Jersey and at least Jason Miyares winning in Virginia for you to wake up. The Harry Enton stuff is wild. I'll play it for you again after the break. However, for all of us who are not federal employees but still want to save some money, I want to tell you about our sponsor, ConsumerCellular.com. Go to ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh, and you'll get any of the offers I mentioned right now. The key one, if you're over 50, you can get 2 lines of unlimited data, 2 lines, unlimited data for just $60 a month. Takes about 20 minutes to switch. You will save money, and if you're one of those people that just absolutely want to have the ability to use as much data as you want, you don't ever want to get stung by a data supercharge, and you also want to save money, that's what Consumer Cellular excels at. If you're over 50, 2 lines, keep your number, keep your contacts, takes 20 minutes to change. The consumer service for Consumer Cellular is all in the United States, 24/7. One button gets you to a live human being in the US of A, talking to you, walking you through it. Again, very easy to do. Second offer to keep in mind is my code, Hugh25. No matter what your age is, if you're making the switch to Consumer Cellular, even if you're doing the special for 50 years and older, 2 lines for $60 a month, if you use my code Hugh25, you'll get another $5 off a month for the first 5 months. Hugh25 at ConsumerCellular.com/Hugh, or when you call 1-800-411-4454. 1-800-411-4454. I had on this week as well, again, one more time on the number, 1-800-411-4454. My professional advice to all podcasters is when you give the number for your show, always give it 3 times and give it slowly, so I might as well follow my own advice. 1-800-411-4454. Americans for Free Markets. I had Senator Toomey on yesterday, and we talked at length about debanking. And a lot of Americans think that's an urban myth, and Senator Toomey dispelled that. It is not an urban myth. It is the real deal. Under President Obama, they had the first round of debanking, and financial regulators leaned on banks to exile gun manufacturers, gun organizations. Under Biden, they went after other right-wing groups, sometimes churches, sometimes things like conservative activist groups. You don't want debanking on the left or the right. No Republican should ever support debanking the left. The financial system has got to be open to everyone, completely fair. It's got to be a free market based upon just abiding with the law. Now, we don't want people money laundering, different issue completely, but the idea that banks were directed by Obama and Biden administrators and regulators to throw out people who are conservative by virtue of their name or their pastime and just simply not to bank them, that's atrocious. It's a violation of the free market. Senator Toomey explained it at length yesterday. Join the fight to stop that from ever coming again. Go to forfreemarkets.com. Americans for Free Markets operate that website, FOR, freemarkets.com, freemarkets.com.
Dwayne Patterson in for Hugh for just a couple of minutes since Hugh's having technical issues back in Virginia. We are joined by we're going to try and get Hugh on the bat phone here in just a couple of seconds. You've heard us talk about the American exploration of and production of AXPC. You've heard this group for a long time. We are joined by a good friend of ours and the president of AXPC, Ann Bradbury. Ann, welcome to the Hugh Show. Sorry for throwing the bait and switch on you. We're trying to get Hugh
That's
back up in
okay.
the
I'm sorry you're
meantime.
having technical difficulties. No problem.
That's okay. So we've been running this campaign for the better part of a month or two now. What is it that we are trying to get the American people to understand about energy production and what the impediments are to drill, baby, drill and really unleash American energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we are talking about right now is the need for Congress to pass comprehensive durable permitting reform, because our permitting framework was simply built for a different era. And as energy demand is going up, both domestically and around the globe, we need to make sure that energy remains affordable and reliable for families and businesses across the country. And in order to scale up our energy, oil, gas, but really all forms of energy, we can't do that with a permitting framework that was built for a different era. This Congress and this administration has taken really meaningful steps to address permitting reform, but to really address the comprehensive, durable permitting reform across the infrastructure landscape, we need Congress on a bipartisan basis to pass comprehensive, durable reform that includes NEPA litigation reform, reform of the Clean Water Act, and reforming the federal lands processes of producing oil and gas on federal land.
So up to this point, Ann Bradbury, has the administration, whether it's the Department of the Interior, whether it's the EPA, have the agencies been more receptive to the permitting process, or is this really something that has to have congressional action?
So the answer to that is both yes. This administration has been incredible in addressing some of the permitting problems that we've seen left over from the last administration. They actually have an entire new agency, the National Energy Dominance Council, along with the Permitting Council, that is solely focused on addressing permitting roadblocks that specific projects are encountering and trying to eliminate those roadblocks to approve permits in a timely manner. However, a lot of these projects are on really long time horizons, years or even decades. And so to ensure that these decisions aren't then, they're all going to be litigated, right? To ensure that they stand up in a court of law, to ensure that, some of the problems that we're seeing at the state and local level can be addressed, and to ensure that if and when this, when there is a change in administration, that we can't simply reverse the progress that we've seen over the last year. We need statutory permitting reform, and only Congress can do that.
So in the Congress, in the House and Senate, I know everybody's focused on the shutdown and everybody going to both camps here, but who are some of the voices that are receptive on both sides, or who are the leaders that you're looking to craft this kind of legislation?
Sure. So the House actually has a great bill that we're very supportive of called the SPEED Act that reforms the NEPA, which I've mentioned, which is one of the, sort of outdated environmental statutes desperately in need of reform. This is a bill that was introduced by Chairman Westerman of the House Natural Resources Committee and is actually co-sponsored by a Democrat from Maine, Jared Golden. So we're very supportive of the SPEED Act and what the House Natural Resources is doing. Because this is a really complicated puzzle to put together, there are a number of committees of jurisdiction across Congress that have a role here. And so the Energy and Commerce Committee also has proposals that they're looking at that deal particularly with transmission and that sort of thing. And then on the Senate side, Senator Capito and Senator Lee from Utah are working on this from the perspective of the Senate Environment and Natural Resources Committee and the Senate EPW Committee.
I now have a working earpiece. Thank you to Dwayne for stepping in with my friend Ann Bradbury, the CEO of AXPC.org, and she's fabulous. I had a great lunch with her last week about oil and gas production in the United States and what longer laterals are. That's drilling down and then to the side. And so sorry about that. Equipment breaks, and it does sometimes on the air, but we got it replaced. Pleased to welcome now Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan, my fellow traveler in Brown's misery. And I don't know if you watched that game this weekend, Senator Sullivan, but none of us should have to go through this, really.
No, Hugh, you and I have been talking about this forever. It's just, I don't know even what to say. Stefanski, I don't know. I'm not sure he's long for this world. And when you get like a great defense, you saw the frustration. 5 sacks, by the way.
I know, Myles Garrett franchise record. Let's talk about happier things. Let's talk about commercial shipbuilding.
I'm sorry, but as I've always said, just the point that we need a franchise quarterback. We haven't had one, since Brian Sipe.
I want them to keep drafting 2 a year until we find one. Not sure it's going to be Dylan Byers. Don't know about Shedeur. So, Senator Sullivan.
I don't know. So we'll see.
We'll see. Let's talk about commercial shipbuilding because we have a brighter set of news there. You held a hearing on that today. Are you actually an optimist we're going to get the hulls built in the United States again?
Well, Hugh, look, we've dug a huge hole. And the problem with this, it's like so many things in America where we didn't see, and it was kind of both sides of the aisle. We didn't see the giant challenge of China. We outsourced everything over the last 4 decades to China. Wall Street certainly helped. And then we wake up and we're like less than 1% of commercial shipping that we now produce, and the Chinese are over 50%. By the way, it's the same thing with critical minerals. Right? We have the minerals in Alaska. We have the rare earths. We have the critical minerals. We outsourced all of that to China. Now they're our adversary. Wall Street helped. So it's going to take some time. But the one thing we have going right now in terms of shipbuilding, which is good, presidential leadership. President Trump is really focused on this for the Navy and the commercial sector of the economy. Congress is very focused on it. And we're putting some money, the one big beautiful bill, the budget reconciliation bill. One of the witnesses, when Bernie Moreno asked him a question today, how good is this bill for shipbuilding? He said, it's generational. So we're on it, but we got a big hole that we're digging out of.
Now, we've got allies who build ships. Like the Finns are going to sell us some Coast Guard cutters. That's a big win. South Koreans have bought the Philadelphia shipyard. They're going to pour money into revitalizing. That's a big win. Where else are we counting on shipyards expanding? Because there's dual use here. You can build a shipyard for commercial that can quickly become useful for warships if needed.
You're exactly right. And by the way, I don't normally do shout outs to the Chinese Communist Party, but they have kind of mastered that whole idea of dual use commercial, then immediately to the warfighting ships. So, but you're right on the Philly shipyard. That's Hanwha from Korea. That is a company our shipbuilding industry can learn a lot from. Similarly with the Japanese. And you may have seen, I just talked to the president about it last week, the Finns, when the president of Finland was in town, he and the president did this big ice pack announcement. We're building 16 new icebreakers from the One Big Beautiful Bill. The Finns are going to build the first 4. Then they're going to bring that technology and investment over to our shipyard to build the rest of them. I think this is actually a really good model, and we can learn from our allies. They're a great new NATO ally. The Koreans and Japanese are great allies. So we got a lot of work to do, and our allies can be a big part of it. And they're all going to be investing in our shipyards, but they have technology that we need, and we got to get on it.
Now, Senator, I do not own a share of General Electric Boat or General Dynamics, which owns Electric Boat, But I do know we need submarine domination like we have. We have to extend it. Is there money in the big, beautiful bill for expanding electric boat or building additional repair facilities so they can turn out more Virginia and Columbia class submarines?
Absolutely. There's $29 billion in the one big beautiful bill
I did not know that.
just for Navy shipbuilding, right? There's $25 billion for recapitalizing our Coast Guard. It's the biggest investment in the Coast Guard in American history. And look, I think the Secretary of War, the Deputy Secretary in particular, is doing a great job going to these shipyards and really pressing the primes, Electric Boat and others that build these ships. But the one thing we need, Hugh, is we need more competition. You know, when you got one American shipbuilder that builds every aircraft carrier in our Navy, that's just not good. The good news on this is we got a lot of these new defense tech firms that are coming up, that are very innovative, that are putting pressure and competition on the traditional primes. That's exactly what we need to do. I've been trying to get the Pentagon to change this culture. Hey, look at the Andurils. Look at some of these other shipbuilding new defense firms. Don't always rely on the primes. Let's get some more competition. But that's the good news. We have the money, we have the presidential leadership, and we do have a bipartisan focus here in the Congress on shipbuilding, both commercial and the Navy. That's usually the ingredients, those things: White House leadership, serious appropriations, and bipartisan legislation that can make it stay for many years. We have all three of those, but we got a long way to go.
Quick question. Have you ever brought Palmer Luckey to talk to the Congress? He's a Southern California guy. He'll show up in board shorts and flip-flops, but boy, he's an innovative. You mentioned Anduril, that's his company. Yeah. Has he ever been to Congress to talk to you folks?
Well, I was at an event with him just like 2 weeks ago. I think he's fantastic. I've been to his facility. You know, for the people who don't know what Anduril is, it's a defense startup, defense tech startup that he really kind of led the vanguard on. And Hugh, the longer story is, you know it, you know, our Silicon Valley part of our economy was never interested in working with the Pentagon, all these smart tech guys. And Palmer Luckey said, hey, I'm going to help our military become more lethal. That's what he's done. He's doing a great job, but we can learn from him and, you know, spend more time on the middle Anduril to help our whole defense sector.
He's a patriot. Senator Dan Sullivan, long-suffering Browns fan along with me, but also an advocate for shipbuilding of both commercial and military. Thank you for joining me, Senator. I want you to know that President Trump was in Japan today. He had a great time. He talked about first the deal that is happening in Japan. Cut number 10.
And we had a phenomenal day here in Japan with a momentous trade deal. We made a big, big, beautiful trade deal for both countries. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, I think Japan also had their best stock market day ever. So your new prime minister is doing very well. First female, first woman prime minister. And I said, you already hit the highest stock price you've ever hit. So she's very happy. And we spent the whole day together. It was beautiful. And she's great. We went out to the USS George Washington, the SS George Washington. It was really great. The sailors and a lot of others, we had a lot of people, a lot of military people were there, but boy, that was some scene. It was incredible. You wouldn't believe that a ship could hold that many people. But I just want to say that she is a delight, and I think she's going to be a great prime minister. I really do. I got to know her pretty well in a short period of time. She was a very good friend and ally of Shinzo Abe, who is a friend of mine, one of my best friends in terms of this world, the world of nations. And he was a great man, and he got, unfortunately, what happened to him was sad, very sad. But he was a great leader, and we miss him.
Former Prime Minister Abe, for those of you who do not remember, was assassinated after he left office. But the new prime minister, the first woman prime minister of Japan, and the president got along famously today. She accompanied him to the George Washington. There are 5,000 sailors on every aircraft carrier, give or take, and I'm sure a whole bunch of dignitaries as well. That flight deck can hold a lot of people. And that was quite a spectacle, an amazing spectacle today. There are clips of it on the web. I encourage you to go and find them. President's right about the markets. Now, the Dow went up 161 points today, 0.34%. S&P went up 15.5 points, 15.75 point, that's 0.23%. And the NASDAQ, which is tech heavy, went up 190 points. Now, I'm always very transparent with my audience. I got out of the market today, except for Palantir. I own one stock. I'm now all in cash. And I'm going to stay there until the correction that is inevitable happens. It might happen in 2 years. I don't mind. I'll sit there and clip coupons. It's okay. I'm not at the age where I tell my kids never sell when the market falls, and it will fall 4 or 5 times in the course of your life. There'll be a correction 2 or 3 times. There'll be a nightmare, but it'll rebound within, like when COVID shuttered the market, when 9/11 happened, Black Tuesday, when I was in the government. There are days when the market just makes your hair turn white, but that's not what happened to me. Never sell in a downturn, but I got out today. Been a great run, great bull market, and I said, maybe it'll go on for a while. We'll see. But I'm hanging on to my Palantir, because companies like Palantir and someday Anduril will go public. They don't come along very often. So I not only got liquid, I bought more Palantir. So I did today, and I'll talk to you more next hour about the market. Always pleased to welcome Senator Marsha Blackburn of the Tennessee Volunteer State. Senator, welcome back. Good to see you. Let's begin, if we can, with an update on the Schumer shutdown. Any signs of the Democrats coming to their senses and opening the government?
Oh, you know, they still are saying they're going to hold out. They are determined to grow Obamacare. They want to supercharge it. You know, Hugh, they've always said that Obamacare was a step on their journey to government-run, single-payer system socialist health care. And so they want health care for illegal aliens. They want to keep the Biden COVID credit bonus that they had during COVID, where they removed all the income caps and gave a lot of people $0 premiums, and even people making $500,000 were getting a taxpayer-funded subsidy for their Obamacare purchase, because Obamacare is too expensive to afford. It's unaffordable without a subsidy. So they think that this helps them get more people into Obamacare, and that is going to help them get a single-payer system that is controlled by the government. The government picks your doctor, your hospital, the health care you get. That's what they want.
You know, Senator, I think this is backfiring in extraordinary ways on Democrats, because they've lost the American Federation of Government Employees and the Air Traffic Controllers Association in 2 days, and they're reduced to just lying. I want to play for you Congresswoman Jayapal on MSNBC today. This is a whopper, cut number 9.
What do you say to those constituents who are worried about feeding their families?
Well, this is the most cruel thing that the Republicans have done since the shutdown started. 42 million people are on SNAP. That is basic food assistance. It is the most effective anti-hunger program that we have ever had.
Now, I think she's right about the numbers on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Senator. But do you think anyone is fooled by this? This is the Schumer shutdown, not the Republican shutdown.
That's exactly right. It's the Schumer shutdown. Chuck Schumer planned this, what he wanted in the shutdown, the Schumer shutdown, for 3 months. Now, as whether it is Congresswoman Catherine Clark or Senator Chris Coons, they've all said they know people are hurting. They know there's going to be some pain, but they need the leverage. And they look at this as a leverage point to get to their goal of government controlling health care, thereby controlling you. And there are about 700,000 families in Tennessee that get SNAP. I have talked today with elected officials. I have talked with people that are working with food banks. And I know that in Tennessee, a lot of the churches are doing food drives, and I really commend these people that are stepping up, and these local elected officials that are helping to identify people in their communities that are going to need help and assistance with food during this. All the Democrats have to do is vote for a clean CR. And Hugh, the thing is, they have voted for these spending levels not once or twice, but 5 times. These are the Biden budget numbers. And what we have said is, let's continue this until November 21st. Let's get our appropriations bills finished. We need to get the House back so that they're working on their appropriations bills, and we can get off of a Biden budget and on to a Republican and a Trump budget. And the Democrats, no, they won't even vote for a clean CR to continue until November 21st. What they want is to spend another $1.5 trillion. They want to continue the Biden COVID credit bonus, which would cost $450 billion over 10 years. And Hugh, the thing is, December 31st, 25 is the date the Democrats picked for the COVID credit to expire because COVID is over.
Yeah. I don't really think, I'm attributing things I do not know because I haven't sat down with any Democratic senator. I don't think they really expect to get that. I do think that they thought this might help them politically. You're referring to Chris Coons on Ceasefire this morning on C-SPAN. I want to play that for people. Here's the senator from Delaware. Good guy, been on the show a couple of times.
Yes,
but I was kind of stunned when he said this. Cut number 3.
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Frankly, this is our only moment of leverage. And although a very unpleasant tool to use,
a very unpleasant tool to use means those 700,000 Tennesseans don't get food. That's how unpleasant it is, Senator Blackburn. I'm kind of astonished to hear Chris Coons is a really good guy say that.
Yeah. Well, it's disappointing when we hear comments like this from any member of the Democrat Party. We encourage them, work with us. Let's reopen the government. And Hugh, the thing that is so interesting about this, they say, well, we want to negotiate spending on different programs. Well, you do that through the appropriations process. And you can't get to the appropriations bills until you reopen the government. So the whole thing is so ridiculous because they contradict themselves every time they speak. And then to say that it's okay for people to hurt because it gives them leverage is weaponizing the government against people that are depending on these benefits. I was talking to a city councilman in Tennessee tonight, and they this afternoon, and they had texted me. They said at their city council meeting last night, they had a woman who works at a local factory, has 4 children, single mom, and she came to the city council saying, please help us, help people that are going to need to have food and the ability to feed their family during this shutdown, because they know that come Saturday there are no benefits. They're going to swipe those EBT cards for their SNAP benefits, and it's going to be insufficient funds. The Democrats are causing this. There is no reason for this. They need to reopen the government, and then we will be able to resume our work on the appropriations bills and our work on discussions.
Senator Blackburn, the audience probably knows you're running for governor in Tennessee, so you have to go to event after event, meet the public. MarshaBlackburn.com if you want to find out how to help her win in Tennessee. She'll be a good governor. Does anyone come up to you and blame the Republicans for this? I'm just curious, in the retail political world, I don't think anyone's confused. I think everyone understands it's a Chuck Schumer stunt. But you're out there talking to voters. What do you hear?
Yeah. And I actually have heard from people, they're saying, while the government is closed, why don't we hear more about eliminating unnecessary and unessential government positions? They want everybody that is essential, our military, the FAA, people that are running the Social Security and the Medicaid offices, and They want those individuals to be paid. They want SNAP benefits and WIC benefits to be paid. But they also want people who are non-essential employees. They say, why don't we go ahead and have these positions eliminated so that our taxes don't go up, so that government runs more efficiently. But I'm not hearing a lot of hue and cry to say we have to have the government spend an extra $1.5 trillion over the next few weeks. I'm not hearing people say, I want to make certain that those that are in the country illegally get health care. I don't hear people saying, let's reopen the NPR and let's get NPR back on the air. You're not hearing that from people. People want government to work well. They want their tax dollars to be used wisely. They want a level-headed approach to the federal government system, and they are incredibly frustrated with what they see being done by Chuck Schumer and the Democrats with the Schumer shutdown. And when they hear comments like Jayapal blaming the Republicans for this, it is the Republicans in the House that passed a clean CR and sent to the Senate. And Congresswoman Jayapal voted no.
I'm so glad you added that, and I hope people realize you need 4 more Democrats across the aisle to join you. 3 already have come, or 2 plus Angus King, the independent, and then we can reopen the federal government. Senator Marsha Blackburn, always a pleasure. Remember, MarshaBlackburn.com for her website if you want to help her out in Tennessee. That's where you go, MarshaBlackburn.com. During the break, I was checking on Jamaica. Hurricane Melissa, depending on what you read, is either the most powerful hurricane on record in the Caribbean or number 2. Sustained winds of 185 miles per hour. It is attacking Jamaica right now, and by attacking I mean devastation like Katrina or Andrew, or if you're old as I am, Camille. I remember the ad campaign, Camille is no lady, and sometimes the United States gets hammered. And it takes us a while to recover, even a couple of weeks. Jamaica does not have that infrastructure, and I have no idea what they're doing. And all I know, and this is not a sponsored ad, Food for the Poor is in Jamaica. They're always in Jamaica. They work in Jamaica. If you're moved by any of the images you see today or tonight, and they are pretty devastating. Roads, villages being washed away, 185 miles per hour. One hurricane hunter, the planes that go in the middle to check the pressure, had to turn back. It got beaten up by the hurricane. I've never heard of that before. 185 mile per hour wind is almost, it's bigger than the typhoons in Asia. And Jamaica is got some beautiful infrastructure in the resort areas. I have seen it. I've never been to Jamaica, but it's going to be bad. Very, very bad. I'm sure the United States will help, but so can you. Food for the Poor is my suggestion. Catholic Charities will be there. Salvation Army will probably be there, but I know Food for the Poor operates there and already has distribution nodes. No one is sponsoring a campaign. I'm just telling you, if you go online and spend 5 minutes looking at what's happened in Jamaica, you'll be very thankful to live wherever it is you live, that you can listen to me or watch me on the Salem News Channel and not be in the middle of that. That's hell on earth right now in Jamaica. And say a prayer for those people and be as generous as you can. I would recommend Food for the Poor. Over on my X account, I posted the link for their emergency fund, but that's not a sponsored campaign. It's just I know they do great work, and I know that you're a generous audience. Thank you in advance for being generous. I want to go back and play again the sequence this morning. Senator Thune on the Senate floor about the shutdown cut number. You know, I really wonder, by the way, I don't know that we can get emergency aid to Jamaica with the federal government shutdown. I know we usually do when one of our neighbors in the Caribbean gets hammered, or Central America catches a hurricane, or Mexico gets hammered. We typically step up. I don't know that we can do that with the federal government shuttered. It's another reason Chuck Schumer ought to sit down and say to his colleagues, ABC through F, G, whatever they need, You vote for this. We can't continue this. People are going hungry in the United States, and people in Jamaica are going to have nothing, and we got to open the government to help them. Here's John Thune on the Senate floor today, cut number 1.
That thing sitting at the desk that funds the government doesn't have a single new Republican policy in it. It doesn't have a single partisan policy writer. It simply extends current government funding. But Democrats have said no to that now 12 times. We offered them a chance to continue the bipartisan appropriations process, starting with the defense appropriations bill, a bill that passed out of the committee by a big bipartisan vote of 26-3. But Democrats said no to that too. They didn't want to lose leverage in the shutdown. Then last week, we offered up a bill to pay any federal employee who was working during the shutdown, including everybody here. And once again, Democrats said no. Mr. President, I don't know what Democrats are holding out for. Do Democrats think that we're suddenly going to vote for their partisan CR, which, by the way, would spend an additional $1.5 trillion to keep the government open until the end of this week? That's their alternative. $1.5 trillion to keep the government open until Friday. That's their alternative. It wouldn't pass here. It can't pass in the House, and it wouldn't be signed into law by the President. Our bill, on the other hand, as I said, has passed the House a month ago, has been sitting here for an entire month, and will be signed by the President immediately to reopen the government.
You know, it takes a lot of nerve for Congresswoman Jayapal. Now, she is as hard left as they come. She's as hard left as AOC. But I am not put her in the Rashida Tlaib category of easy to lie. But boy, this is a big whopper. Cut number 9.
What do you say to those constituents who are worried about feeding their families?
Well, this is the most cruel thing that the Republicans have done since the shutdown started. 42 million people are on SNAP. That is basic food assistance. It is the most effective anti-hunger program that we have ever had.
She's right about that. She's wrong about who's responsible for SNAP stopping. I don't know if it's 42 million Americans. It's a lot of Americans depend upon SNAP for basic. It's called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's food. It is necessary, and it's out of money because of the Democrats. The Democrats have turned their back on poor people. And as I read about Melissa, they're turning their back on. Listen to this report 6 minutes ago. Powerful Hurricane Melissa will continue to rage over Jamaica for the next few hours. So it's a Category 5. It's 185 miles an hour for hours at night, moving north before emerging into the Caribbean Sea. Cuba is set to face Melissa's wrath next. The hurricane is forecast to make landfall in southeastern Cuba overnight, likely a few hours after midnight, as either a Category 4 or a high-end Category 3 storm. So it's not going to lose that much strength. It's moving so slowly. Heavy rain has already begun in Cuba. When it gets through Cuba on Wednesday, it's going to enter the Atlantic, and it's going right at the Bahamas, southeastern Bahama. And it should hit there as a Category 3 or a high-end Category 2. It's a monster storm, and the federal government is closed. That doesn't mean the military isn't closed. Maybe the military can help. Aircraft carriers headed there to the Caribbean, and aircraft carriers are the best things to show up whenever a hurricane hits, because they can produce power from the reactors, and they can get that power to fuel the devastated regions. We've done that in the Philippines. We've done that wherever typhoons have hit. Aircraft carrier shows up. They're the most welcome United States sailors in the world when a carrier shows up that can produce power and clean water. So that aircraft carrier, which has left the Med and is en route to the Caribbean, is going to get there in time to help Jamaica, and they're still being paid, and they can't leave even if they can't. But all the other stuff we do for third world countries and impoverished countries, even countries we don't like Cuba. We do humanitarian aid, but not if it's coming from the civilian side, we're not. And thank you, Democrats. You've made hungry people in America get hungrier, and you've made people devastated by Hurricane Melissa look to the United States and get sent, sorry, we're shut because of the Schumer shutdown. One of our great sponsors is Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs. Their website is pharmawindfall.com. You say, why would Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs have a website called pharmawindfall.com? Because every time your health care bills go up, and boy, are they going up, it's because usually the cost of prescription drugs have gone up. Now, President Trump has talked, he's talked at Big Pharma, and they have succumbed to some price controls and some price gains. And don't worry about Big Pharma. They're not losing sleep. They're not laying off employees. Big Pharma is making plenty of money, but they don't need another windfall. They got a windfall in Obamacare. People forget this, but I've been doing this since the year 2000, went all the way through the Obamacare nightmare, warned you about it, told you about it. We rallied enough people, we almost stopped it, but we didn't. And the people who threw in with President Obama and this crazy, quote, scheme that is screwing Americans who don't get either Medicare or Medicaid or insurance through their employers, and even those are getting price hikes passed on to them, but especially the people trapped in the Obamacare healthcare exchanges, they're getting screwed because the cost of prescription medicine keeps going up, 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 and up. And pharma wants another windfall, and they shouldn't get. Now, they have the best lobbyists in town. They are ubiquitous. They're very good at their jobs. They've been at it a long time. They are well-funded. They do a fine job of making an argument for why Big Pharma needs another handout. But they don't. And they don't need to be protected from market forces, and they don't need patent protection extension. They make plenty of money on their new drugs. We need to cut them off from subsidy. PharmaWindfall.com. Go there, sign up, get involved with stopping Big Pharma's attempt to loot the federal government yet again. Now, I want to go back to the Air Traffic Controllers Association earlier today, because yesterday the Democrats lost the American Federation of Governmental Employees. They called on the Democrats to open up the government. Here's the Air Traffic Controllers Association today, cut number 6.
Day in and day out, that's now the life of an air traffic controller. The people tasked with making the impossible possible are having it made impossible by not paying them again. So the message is simple. In the shutdown today, there is no excuse that these hardworking men and women are showing up to do this job and to not ever know when they're going to get paid again. So we need America's help. We need you to stand up, and we need you to say, enough is enough in this shutdown, and ensure that we can move this forward, because we do not want to be up here telling you the sad stories. We want to be up here telling you how we're moving this system forward, how we're bringing in more air traffic controllers than ever, how we're modernizing this system to, serve the American people. So, again, cannot stress enough. If you want to take action, contact your congressional representative and tell them in the shutdown today.
And the shutdown today, that requires 7 Democrats to join the Republicans, maybe 8 or 9 to give everyone a little bit of cover so that they're not the deciding vote. Chuck Schumer can make that happen tomorrow, like he did in the spring. It's clean CR. Go back and figure out the appropriations. They're not going to get $1 trillion for Obamacare subsidies. Obamacare doesn't work. It's a nightmare. The market's going to have to work. They're going to have to develop alternatives to Obamacare. People are going to have to go back to employers and find employer-based insurance. It's a failure, just like the JCPOA where they run. There is no achievement by Barack Obama. He had an achievement-less 8 years in the White House. There's nothing to point at. And paying trillions of dollars to prop up the failed legacy of a failed president is not a good choice. By the way, second failed president in the last 12 years was Joe Biden. Here is what the speaker said today about the auto pen, cut number 18.
Oversight Chairman James Comer released a blockbuster report now on the Biden auto pen presidency. And this report includes 47 hours worth of transcripts and testimony revealing that every executive action signed by the auto pen without written authorization from President Biden should be voided. This is an unprecedented situation in American politics and government. The actions of President Biden simply were not all his own actions, and there are major implications to that, including all the pardons that he signed. But don't get me started. Okay.
Don't get me started. I don't think you can reverse a pardon, even if it's auto pen. I don't think you can reverse. You could impeach judges who were nominated by President Biden when he was non-compos mentis, but I don't think we want to do that either. It's just they're not very legitimate, and they're not very good, and Joe Biden had no idea he was nominating them. But I digress. I have been remiss for one of my oldest markets in 25 years. I've been on AM 1280 The Patriot in Minneapolis, St. Paul. 25 years, and James Lilacs has been on with me for most of those 25 years, except when I was on early in the morning when he would not get up. But he is now here, and they have a mayoral race next week. Now, it's not as sexy as New York, but there are 500,000 people in Minneapolis. It's important. And James, you went to a fundraiser.
Well, the neighbor across the street sent out a flyer saying, "Hey, neighbors, the mayor's coming over to the house. You want to let's get together, have a ham sandwich and a dessert." Why wouldn't I? So we crossed the street, and easy to find parking, I guess. And there he was, and we got speeches from the park board people who, in a true Minneapolis civics, style, are earnest and dedicated to the parks and really hardworking and great people. And then we heard from the mayor. And, he's having a hard race because he's being flanked on the left by this fellow, Omar Fateh. And he's making a good point that, look, the DSA element of the party is crazy. And the proper results to the extremism of the right, as he put it, is not the extremism of the left. Well, we're sort of not in that mood, perhaps, these days, but he's correct. Here's the problem. One, the city council is talking about a sales or an income tax for the city of Minneapolis. It's never been done before, which shows how completely and utterly out of touch they are with what the city needs and what will bring people back into it. An income tax on top of every single other tax that they levy. But the mayor was talking about an issue passionate to him, and that is what they call gun violence, and what the rest of us call hoopleheads shooting each other for random stupid reasons. And justifiably so, because we had the horrible shooting down the street at the Annunciation Church. He had also that day signed a proclamation welcoming and endorsing his opinion and his warm feelings for the trans community, and then he started talking about red flag laws, which, when you put that whole thing together about whether or not people with mental illnesses should get guns, and at the same time you're saying, oh, and by the way, all of our trans people are saying to us, and it's a usual farrago and stew of inconsistent ideas that don't mesh but sound great and smell nice. But what he said in his passion about guns was that he wanted to be able to enact the sort of confiscation laws and anti-assault weapon laws, large magazines, assault weapons, weapons of war, and those things, that he wanted to be able to have the power to do something about, to ban them. Because right now you can just walk in, of course, and get a weapon of war and go straight to the church. Well, after he'd said that, I had a question. And my question was, all right, let's say you get all the laws.
Wait. Were you putting your hand up in the back? Were you one of those guys with the sneaky softball question that's really a hand grenade, or did you get him aside?
Well, I did. No, this was while he was talking. I did raise my hand in the back, and I didn't intend this as a sneaky question. To me, it's the most obvious question in the world. I said, okay, if you get the laws that you want and these guns are banned, what then? And he didn't quite grasp what I was saying. So I said, do you go get them, or do you wait for them to come to you? And there wasn't really any answer.
What do you expect a mayor to say with a practical question like that?
I want to hear somebody grapple with second stage thinking, is all. He's a smart guy. I want to see how he's going to do this. And he talked about how the police have got more guns off the street this year because, they've made stops and the rest of it, leaving aside the question that the city has decriminalized all kinds of activity that used to permit them to stop people, because that guy's probably got something. But he couldn't. He doesn't, because they want that law. But then when you say, well, are you going to go get them? Because you know that they're not going to be able to do so. Are you going to wait for them to flow in out of the goodness of the hearts of the criminals who have them already? You know that's not going to be. But it's stuck on that one thing about getting the one proper perfect law that will do the thing we know needs to be done.
Okay,
And
two
it won't.
follow-ups. Did he know who you were, having been a columnist in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune for a quarter century? Did he know it's lilacs?
He didn't say anything. The guy next to me was saying, the guy next to me elbowed me and said, "See, that's the kind of question a journalist would ask." and I looked up and I went, "No, but I wanted to say, A, no, it's not, and B, I'm not a journalist, which is why I asked it." So yes, go ahead.
Second question: when you asked that question, how many people were there? Third question: how many people were there?
30, 35.
Okay, so of the 35 people, did anyone look at you like, "How dare you ask a question that requires a practical answer"? Did you get the Karen look?
No, that was reserved for the guy standing next to me who got a hot and nasty barbed look from a woman by the door because he continued to ask a question about, okay, you're term limited here. What's the thing you'd like to do that your party keeps you from doing? And he got a nasty look for that one.
Oh.
So no, nobody. I did not drop the bleep in the punch bowl. But I mean, again, I'm amongst the sort of folk down here who are reasonable, smart folk in this living room. And what I asked was not a ridiculous, stupid question. I don't see how they could have construed it as such. So no.
No, it's a
I didn't get any
stupid proposal because it's unconstitutional to go get people's guns. It's unconstitutional.
Right.
And Minnesota is not going to stand for that generally. Now, is Mayor Fry going to beat? I mean, how can anyone be to his left? He was the guy out there. It's impossible.
Of course they can. With rent control, with racial tribal politics, with all sorts. I mean, rent control being one of the great ones that Mr. Fateh has in his portfolio. Of course he can. Of course you can outflank him on the left. I mean, there's somebody who can outflank Mandami on the left, for heaven's sakes, if you ponder around New York enough. Is he going to win? I don't know. We have ranked choice voting here, a stupid system that I hate.
Okay, you've got 2 minutes. Would you explain ranked choice voting for people? Because I'm an ass and I can't do it.
I can't. You make several choices, and then if your first one doesn't get it, your second one does, unless you're standing on your left leg, putting your weight on your left leg in the voting booth while you're doing it and holding your pen with your right hand. Now, if the pen is a black pen ink, and you make the oval there in the little voting thing, but you leave out a little bit of the oval as you're putting it in, then the third person that you choose, if you choose them with an X, actually will vault to the first of your choices, but it will not be the first of your choice if the person who is your second choice has a name that begins with a vowel or has an umlaut within the first 5 letters.
The umlaut exception.
That's ranked choice.
So, bottom line, exit question, who's going to win, James?
I think Frey will win. I do. I think the people who will come out to vote will be the people who say will hold their nose if they don't like him because the alternative is worse and they don't want to throw it away on somebody who can't. And I think at the end of the day, he will. But I don't know. We will see.
Only if that logic were to prevail in New York City, which we'll talk about next week when Lilacs returns. In the meantime, jameslilacs.substack.com. jameslilacs.substack.com. That's where you get all your lilacs. Or just go to lilacs.com and find it all there. Thank you, James.